What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Whiskeyed Gingers podcast. Back live in the flesh. I'm Brandon. He's Chris. And we have got a really cool one today. We talked a lot about it last Tuesday. Just kind of neat that somebody actually interacted, reached out with a really sick distillery whiskey brand. And we're going to be doing the first of several tastings of that today.
So you guys are definitely not going to want to miss the next couple episodes because I think we're going to be really breaking into these pretty actively.
Yeah, they're really cool. They're small batch kind of stuff. We're working with the distiller himself to get him on the pod. Kind of explain. He sent us one bottle that I'm kind of earmarking for that. It's just a really classy bottle. It seems like their upper end bottle. I don't know too much about this myself. We're going to hear it all from him, and we can work that out. But looking at the proof, I mean, it's a strong bottle. I think we're talking like north of 110.
And that was the one you're excited for, right?
That's the one we're saving for when we're able to get the man, the myth, the legend himself, the man behind Proof and Wood Whiskey. So that'll be coming up in a Tuesday. Hopefully within the next month, we're going to work that out. But
coming to you live soon.
Yes, nothing live, absolutely. But for the time being, there's one that I wanted to kind of get to now, just because I personally haven't seen a whiskey quite like it. It kind of has a reddish hue. It's going to be tough to see tonight with the lighting, but I've never had a whiskey like this, never seen like a red whiskey, and it's a pretty small batch, so I'm excited to give this one a try.
It's certainly got a very dark color. So I think we might as well kind of segue into what it is.
Yeah.
We have, I just hopefully can get a good camera angle. So this is the Proof and Wood. The Stranger is the name. It's a Polish whiskey, and it's a 100% rye, aged 8 years. So got a pretty decent camera angle of that there. It's not too bad. Gets a little washed out for the bottom there, but pretty cool bottle.
Yeah.
Looks really awesome. To Brandon's point, it's a little bit dark, probably on the darker side. I think it'll be interesting to see what it looks like outside the bottle.
I think it's not going to be as red as it looks in bottle, which I'm kind of bummed, but I think it's going to taste delicious, not the same.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be really good. And did you have any other quick things that you were thinking about the bottle itself, or any extra factoids that you have? We can get into more of them as we're drinking it.
Yeah, so I want to taste it and see kind of what comes through on its own, and I'll look up and see what we're supposed to be experiencing.
This is our first Polish whiskey, so that's kind of cool.
First ever Polish.
So we've done Japanese whiskey, we've done the bourbons, we've done the Irish, we've done. I think we did a little bit of Scotch, probably not too much on here.
We did
French.
We've done Jewish, Israeli.
Oh yeah, we did do the one was a Jewish one. It was the one that my cousin had gifted to me as well. That one was really cool. So I mean, we've been through all different walks of life. So
and the thing that was cool with that one, the one your cousin brought us, was
a super small batch.
It was a really small batch. I don't quite remember the batch number, but this one is down there. It might be smaller. This is number 189, I believe.
I think that one was in like the tens, okay. 20 something, 30 something. It wasn't in the hundreds. So I'm gonna get this wax seal off of here, hopefully in one easy go. It's kind of like pre-opened up. Yeah, it worked out.
It's a really, really nice.
It's really on there. Yeah, I like that.
It's a smaller. It seems to be a smaller distillery, but the quality really does not lend itself to that. I mean, this is one of the nicer bottles we've gotten.
Very cool. All right, without further ado, let's open it up.
Ooh, that was a tight one.
It was in there, good.
Yeah, and so it's a synthetic cork though.
Yeah, okay. That's all right. I we keep saying non-synthetic or synthetic. I think it kind of they all kind of are. It just depends on the presentation and the quality. So,
and I think we've only really ever had the synthetic for the most part. All right, let's see what we got here.
It smells good right out the gate. Just got a whiff of it.
What's interesting is it has a sweeter smell to it. So I'm curious to see if it holds up. Now, obviously, not as red as it looked in the bottle. But that's probably because the labels are maroon. But we've been kind of going by darkness of whiskey as something we like. And judging by yours, that's like a dark, syrupy looking whiskey.
Yeah, lately. I mean, it's a rye. It's 100% rye, but it almost has that kind of bourbon color to it. So I'll be curious to see. Be curious to see how it is, but I think we should give it a try.
Here's to you. Here's to Proof and Wood, making dreams come true.
Thank you.
That's a rye. That's a rye.
It's not your normal forte. I have to say, as ryes go, though,
Yeah.
it has a lot of flavors that are complementary to what I would say we like.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So,
It's like if you took the flavors of some of our favorite whiskeys, the sweetness, the smokiness.
Mhm.
It does have a little bit of like of a cherry.
It has a back end sweetness to it for
Yeah.
sure, like a really heavy back end sweetness. You don't get that right away when you first drink it, but no, that is like for me lingering more prominently than anything. Is
Yeah.
that like back end sweetness?
It punches for me because I know you love a scotch, like you like
Yeah.
you kind of, this is more your wheelhouse. For me, it's a haymaker right off the bat.
Hits you right in the front.
But then once that initial shock passes, I
Yeah.
love all the flavors that are sticking around.
Yeah, no, it's great. Honestly, it has a ton of flavor packed into
Yeah.
one sip for sure. More than I was expecting because there's a lot of ryes out there that just don't give you that flavor. I mean, a lot of the times I see people use ryes and almost like those old fashioned mixers or anything like that. You see that happen a lot.
Yeah.
So I feel like in a way they dress up the rye rather than letting it stand on its own.
Oh.
And in this case, I think that this rye stands on its own 100%.
Okay, so here's a little bit of the stats on this. Distilled from 100% rye in Poland, aged in the U.S. 10-year age, 10-barrel batch. Not a big batch. And that is all it gives me. In ex-bourbon and okay. So that's aged in former bourbon and rye barrels. So that's why we're getting a little bit of that bourbon.
Some of that bourbon flavor in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is, by the way, 105 proof.
So it's not nothing.
Yeah, I don't think that we said that from the beginning.
That's another good point.
So, but yeah, no, I think this is a delicious bottle of whiskey, actually.
Yeah.
And we definitely thank our friends for sending this over. This was an insane thing, and we've been talking about it. We kind of been talking it up. This is such a fun experience for us to have gotten a whiskey gifted to us, and that was kind of our overarching thought process. Like, oh, maybe one day we'll get big enough on our presence that we'll be able to get some free whiskey sent our way, so that we can kind of diversify. Living in PA, you have a much better selection where you work.
Yeah, popping over to Delaware.
Over to Delaware and getting whiskey, but we've talked about it until we're blue in the face here. But we don't have a great selection of whiskey in Pennsylvania in general, so we're exhausting. I mean, we're on episode 49 today.
Yeah.
We're running through our whiskey selection pretty quickly. So to have people from outside of our area sending us something is huge. It makes a big difference
and
to
not
us.
just something. I mean, you'll see how long this series lasts. Proof and Wood really hooked it up. And I was able to find a little bit more on this one in particular because I wanted to understand kind of the flavors. Now, look, I've said off the bat, like, I'm going to react stronger, to ryes and scotches than you are. It's not a reflection of how much I like the whiskey. They're pretty upfront about what this is.
Yeah.
Aged for, I think it's an 8-year age. The first thing you're supposed to feel is a spicy rye.
Mm.
So that's not just me. That is
just in
you're
general.
Supposed to feel that.
Yeah.
Caramel and vanilla, which you definitely get on the
the back end. Yep,
yeah.
Absolutely.
And then this is they call this something where you kind of graduate from a newbie to like more, they say connoisseur. I don't think we're there, but it's somewhere between you like whiskey and you're looking to branch out.
We've already gotten our feet wet. That's clear. So we're on to whatever the next stage is.
Yeah, this is for people.
Yeah.
Probably. I mean, I think we're a little bit beyond it, just because
we're teetering the deep end.
Yeah.
You go from you dip your feet in, you're in the low end, and then you're like teetering the deep end. We've gotten invested. I mean, we know what flavors we like. We know what flavors we don't like. We've gotten adventurous in the sense of things like that. We like to try new options and new types of whiskey. But yeah, we're still learning in general. Yeah. We'll never stop learning. I don't think that it's fair to say that we're experts. We never claim to be. It's just a matter of we're always learning what we like and what we don't like and what's out there.
And this is for the price point does kind of match like kind of what we're talking about. It's the most consistent I've seen is between 56 and 45.
Mm-hmm.
So that's and then up to 73. That seems high.
Yeah.
So it's in that mid range of whiskeys. Now I did. Yeah. We'll tease this for later because this is the one I want to do with the owner. But I did get a glimpse at the street value for one of them he sent us.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
It was high.
it was up there a tad.
Yeah,
It's one of the more expensive whiskeys we'll have had on the pod.
I think based on our experience, and we've kind of touched on this before, we know that our everyday whiskeys are usually within that $30 to $40 price range. I feel like once you get to 50 to 70, that's a little bit of a wider range, but 50 to 70, you're usually entering that like weekend, I'll give this to a guest who's interested in whiskey kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And this definitely
This falls
falls within
into
that
that,
category. I wouldn't say that you want to buy this to drink every day.
No.
Not encouraging drinking every day, but my
Yeah.
point is like your bottom shelf, just grab this off the shelf whenever you want kind of whiskey, versus the weekend whiskey. I think this makes it into the weekend whiskey category for me.
I agree.
And I would be happy to break it out to share with somebody for sure.
Yeah, this is kicking back on a Friday and it's celebrating the fact that it's the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
It's having somebody like, me or yourself or Jeff or somebody over
Mm-hmm.
that appreciates whiskey and go, hey, I got this new thing and give it a try.
Yep.
It's not if you're doing this, but I'm not condoning, it's not your Wednesday today kind of sucked whiskey. Like,
I feel like there's a stigma behind that too.
Yeah.
It's like it kind of needs to be a crummy whiskey.
a little bit.
If like your day was crummy, people wind up drinking crummy whiskey.
Or something you have a lot of. Like, we were
Fair
just
enough.
talking, how it's so easy to fly through these kind of whiskeys that we do because they're all 750s. And
Yep.
they're delicious for the most part. So that feels like one where you have a handle of like Jameson sitting around, and you don't care. Like, I'll get it done if I need to. It's whatever.
Is there a quality factor? Clearly not, because I mean we're biased, but we like Jameson as an option.
Yeah.
And I mean, like that's something that you could just keep in the house and not really worry about it too much. But do you think that there's something to the fact that those kind of whiskeys you can buy in a handle, and like these kind of whiskeys you can only buy in 750? Is there a limiting factor there? Like clearly there's a reason why all of these smaller brands go in 750. It's a very palatable, like a very marketable size, I imagine, is why they do it.
I think it's got something to do with with production too. I mean, Jameson is scaled worldwide. Jack Daniels is scaled worldwide. Makers, stuff like that. Much the same way you can get a keg of Miller Lite, but you go to your favorite brewery down the street, they might do kegs, but they're going to be a fortune if they do it at all.
That's true.
They're not scaled the same.
They also maybe don't have the infrastructure to kind of do that.
Yeah, I mean, this is handwritten. Like when you look at the stats on this bottle, they're written with a pen.
I love that.
So
I'd love to talk to the guy. I'd love to talk to the guy that did it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We'll try and hook that up too. But
what kind of questions do you think that you'd ask if you were standing in a small batch distillery? What would you ask like the inside people there? What would be like your go-to? What keeps you up at night about small batch distilleries?
Well, this is distilleries in general. I think I get a better answer small batch.
Mm-hmm.
I would want them to tell me how I should be drinking these, because every week we read these things about all these things we should taste, and at best we get
one
or two. So I want to ask somebody who's telling me that they taste like this, what am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
How should I taste the subtle vanilla undertones of your whiskey?
These people are like trained in this, though. I mean, that's ultimately what it is. Yeah,
that's what I want to know.
That's like people that like food connoisseurs and stuff. They can pick out in spices all these random little things that maybe the general public couldn't pick out.
Is there nutmeg in this?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, a teaspoon of nutmeg.
Well, it's like, for me specifically, you hit the nail right on the head. That was great that you said nutmeg. If you gave me something that had like nutmeg, cinnamon, and something else in it, I'd probably not be able to tell you which is like coming through to me.
No shot.
I'd be like, no, it tastes like fall.
Yeah, got a little bit of spice to it. I like it.
Tastes like fall. I smell in my my taste buds are associating scented pine cones to this flavor right
exactly.
now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to do it. And likewise, in whiskey, we're kind of a similar mindset. We can tell you the really proud flavors that are coming through, but by and large, we're not experts on this at all. We're not flavor experts. It's like people that describe what is it, umami?
Yeah.
That flavor profile. Like, what is umami? Nobody can actually describe what that is. So
that's the biggest thing I want to know. What about you?
I don't know. I think that like I'd love to kind of figure out their mad scientist viewpoint of like how they come up with certain brews or like certain different options. How do you come up with this? Do you just have 10 different ones and you just throw random stuff in each one, or you have like a game plan and then you see which one works out the best in the end?
Yeah.
Is there a rhyme or reason to it, or is every small batch whiskey a happy little accident, as Bob Ross would say.
And is there is there a base?
Yeah.
Like, you think about, not bartenders is a bad example, like baristas. I always wondered how they could memorize like a Starbucks menu with 30 different drinks on it. But I had somebody explain it to me. There's the same base right up until, let's say, the last 3.
Oh, really? So it's just a lot of the similar stuff.
You got to know how to make the coffee, the latte, whatever the hell else, and then every different menu item has some add-ons. When you're doing small batch whiskey like this, especially when they're all Polish ryes, is there a base that you're toying with?
Sure,
or are you back to the drawing board each time?
You're probably right. You're probably 100% right. And then I also wonder, this would be a great question for people that are working at small batch distilleries. This is a batch.
Yeah.
How close do they get it every time? Like if we got, batch 189 and somebody had batch 150, how, like, if you put them next to each other and you had 2 glasses, would you get the exact same experience? I'm sure it's close.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's going to be totally different. It's not as though you put Jim Beam and Jameson in 2 glasses next to each other and then you tried those back to back. Clearly, those are going to be different. But if you put 2 of these that were different batch numbers, how close would the flavor be? Yeah. And is there a limitation there? Like, do they have a set standard of it needs to be this close to our master plan?
This much deviation.
Yeah, our master plan, it needs to be that close to it. So that'd be a pretty cool thing to talk to people about.
And then if it's outside of that, what happens to that batch?
Oh, yeah, that's even a better question.
Because if it's me and like if I'm running the business and it's like, okay, well, I can't call this the stranger anymore because it's not the stranger.
Yeah.
Guess who just came up with a brand new whiskey?
Yeah. Either that becomes what we call friends and family whiskey.
No, I'm selling that shit.
Fair enough.
That's the acquaintance now.
The acquaintance. You just start off branding it a little bit. Limited time run. That's where they get their limited time runs from.
Dude, it's genius.
We're on to something.
One time only.
We're slowly crippling the entire structure of the small batch market by giving away their secrets.
Mr. Proofenwood, if you're out there, call me. I got some ideas. What was neat is I didn't bring it for this one, but you can tell some of these are very topical. So this one's obviously aged 8 years, so it's been around a while. But one of the other ones they sent me, I'll put it this way, is extremely topical.
Okay.
So it's something that you never see anybody else do. Like, there's no one else to do a Halloween edition or a breast cancer edition or whatever. It's cool with small batch that they can kind of react to what's going on.
They could read the room. It's like a South Park.
Yeah.
They can do it based on what's trending.
Yeah, so that's kind of neat to see, like, where they think society's going, and then they'll make a whiskey to kind of match that.
That's pretty cool. I mean, you know what? It sets the scene. It's like a cultural thing.
Mm-hmm.
So they have the opportunity to kind of get involved in that, and why not?
It's a lot easier as you go for me. You liked it off the bat.
I liked it off the bat. I did.
Second glass is a lot easier for me than the first glass.
Yeah. Well, that might have something to do with the first glass hitting too. There's always that opportune situation.
That shock factor's gone. I know exactly what I'm getting.
Yep.
And like you got to go through the stages of like, okay, we're in the heat. It's like, you ever see Hot Ones?
I don't think I have. Oh, yeah.
It's like, when you're in like the last dab, but you look back to how good the honey garlic was. That's like this whiskey for me. Like, I know that last dab's gonna hit.
Yeah.
But then I'm gonna enjoy the ride the rest of the way.
Mm-hmm. That's very true. Yeah, I don't disagree with you there.
Yeah, this is pretty cool stuff, but nothing.
I didn't really I figured we were just gonna kind of like divulge into it. I was curious if you had any special holiday plans coming up or anything. I know you're one big holiday plan that you do every year.
Yeah.
Which is really cool in general. So I mean, like, that's kind of neat to talk about.
Yeah. So we got the the Luminary event on December 7th. Actually, drinking whiskey's kind of a good way to think about it because it's so funny. It starts off as this way to remember people who passed. So if you haven't seen a Luminary, basically what it is it's that event where people put white paper bags out front of all their houses. You light a candle on the inside, and at night the whole street kind of winds along in this continuous glow, and it's really awesome. And so that's kind of the bringing neighbors together. Everybody kind of works 2-3 hours in the afternoon, gets them all put out, and then it shifts to where we did all this like wholesome like neighborhood building stuff, but it's a blue collar neighborhood in Pennsylvania. So everybody comes back around like 7:30. And it's a BYO, bring your own cocktail. So people do hot toddies, which are oh man, I love whiskey on its own. I love whiskey on the rocks, whatever. I don't know if I love whiskey more than I love it in a hot toddy. It is delicious. So people bring that over, and everybody just gets ripped in the front lawn of my parents' house.
Amazing.
And it has made that neighborhood so much closer because everybody has that commonality now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you invited us, and we were able to make it the 1 year, and it was such a eye-opening experience for me.
It's like a sitcom.
It was, yeah. It literally feels like, in some ways, you're in a Mayberry community.
Yes,
everybody's coming together, and very suburbia
Yeah.
in general. And it's interesting to see that, especially because it is a Philly suburb.
Mhm.
So, like, you would get the initial impression, I would at least, not being from that area, that it wouldn't be like that.
Yeah.
But it was, in general, it really brought people together. And I don't know if those kind of events are the reason why people were so close and why that got brought together, but it was nice to see that there was a sense of community there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of people like are in it. I mean, knew each other already. That it's one of those streets everybody kind of talks. I mean, most of the houses have front porches.
Yeah.
I mean, during the pandemic, we'd all be out on the front porch day drinking and waving at people as they walk by. But what's kind of neat about it is through doing this, we've met people that my parents have been neighbors with for 10, 12, the longest one was 30 years.
Mm-hmm. Never had conversations with outside of this.
No, she wanted to help. She was like, hey, this looks like an awesome thing you guys are doing. It was here too. And we asked, we were like, oh, you know, who told you? Or like, you know, what street are you from? And she was like, oh, I'm 7 houses that way. Oh, when'd you move in? 1989. So, holy shit. We lived on the same street for you for 30 years.
Yeah, that happens though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's so neat. You don't see enough of that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, like, I grew up in classic suburbia, you know, in my hometown, but it was not really like that. I mean, we had a good community as far as the young people in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like, we'd get off the school bus and all hang out. We'd play some type of sport. So I had a lot of friends in that sense, but I didn't feel like there was an overwhelming, like, my parents knew them because I was friends with them, but it's not like people were hanging out outside of that. It was kind of just like, oh, well, you know, Chris is over at so-and-so's house. I know their parents because I picked them up there one time, you know, like it was that kind of situation. Yeah. It wasn't necessarily they were hanging out on the side. Based on the community that you guys are having at your neighborhood, it kind of like seems like they would, not that they do it all the time, but they would kind of get together for a different reason. Yeah. So I just thought that was cool.
Went to Cape May a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
2 of them were retired, and then somebody had a day off. So I just did a day trip down to Cape May. It's the reason why I don't think my parents will ever move into like any kind of like community, like retired community, 55 plus community, because they're kind of already in one without all the rules and bullshit. Like everybody already just does that stuff. The whole reason you move to one of those is for company, companionship, and social life. It's
interesting too because on that same topic, when I was growing up, we had a lot of kids in the neighborhood. The generation before me had a lot of kids in the neighborhood. After I started growing up, before I moved out on my own, I recognized that a lot of the people in those neighborhoods stayed there.
Yeah.
But that also meant that there wasn't really a steady flow of new kids in the area because all these families, their kids had grown up, they've gone to college, they've left, whatever the case may be. That meant that like until the grandkids start coming around, it was kind of like a 55 and older community. Yeah. That's what it turned into.
That's kind of the catch-22.
So, yeah, that was interesting. You want to see people stay forever and have these neighbors for a long time. But by doing that, these communities go through like these classic, the game of life phases. So it's a really interesting concept to see how that works. And I wonder how like economically and like people that have degrees in that kind of civil planning and everything, they probably have some type of way to weigh into that and figure out what's going on there. And if it's bad for communities, it probably is in some ways to become like stagnated a little bit, but
I think
who knows?
I think it depends. I mean, it might be bad for certain businesses, but then you got to figure if your street's going through that, a street, you know, a couple roads over might be on the other end. The
other end of the spectrum. All of them are having kids at the same time and everything else. So
at the end of the day, I mean, just from watching my parents do it, you know, when you're living in suburbia, you know, like they are, where you're all quarter acre on top of each other, you want stability. The last thing you want is a rotating door.
Some rabble rousers to start moving in.
So I would say for the housing market, it's great because the houses have no wear and tear. It's the same person.
Yeah, it's like when you buy a one-owner car
Yeah,
from some guy that's had it for 40 years sitting in his garage. He drives it, every now and again to the grocery store.
exactly. Which like, and it's the difference between that and buying a used police car
Yeah,
where they beat the piss out of it for 20
Yep.
years.
that's very true. That's
Like,
very true.
That's why I'd be nervous to buy a rental property. I mean, you're in construction enough,
Yeah.
Like, I mean, one, they're run through by like a different tenant every 2 years. Two, I'll put it this way: the repairs are being done as on the cheap.
Typically,
They're
yeah.
painting, we're painting over shit. The landlord special, like we're painting over outlets, we're painting over switches. If your dog's laying down, we're painting over.
That does exist, although I feel like nowadays standards have grown a little bit.
The social media.
Yeah, people don't necessarily always stand for that anymore. So I feel like the landlord special absolutely still exists. There's 100% slumlords out there for sure. But I do feel like people in general have higher standards now.
Yeah.
So because of that, it's harder for people to get away with things. But I don't disagree with you. If I was buying a property and it was a rental property previously, I'd be willing to bet that my cost to get it renovated and ready again is at least like probably 20% higher than it would be if it was a single family living there previously for, let's say, 5 to 10 years.
Exactly.
It'd be a totally different animal to tackle that, because naturally when you're renting, you don't really feel any ownership of it. You're not taking as good care of it as you would, because it's somebody else's problem, essentially. I mean, how obligated are you at your rental house to go up on the roof and clean the gutters out?
Yeah.
You're not. I mean, that's just the sweet and short of it.
Yeah, that's the beauty of renting. You call somebody, you go, hey, the gutters are full. Your ass over here.
Hey, landlord, get over here.
Hey, I mean, that's the trade-off. You can kick me out whenever you want, and I got to pay you, $2,000 a month for zero equity.
But I expect clean gutters.
I'm not lifting a finger.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, that's just kind of the deal. I shouldn't say the deal. It's kind of messed up, and I'm the opposite of that 10. I never call my landlords.
The unspoken deal.
It is, yeah. But I mean, hey, it kind of is. Like, it's, yeah. If you don't own it, why am I going to put all this money into it? I'll keep it clean. I'm not going to trash because you do live in it. But
for me, that was the biggest thing that incentivized me to want to buy a house.
Yeah,
was because my experience with renting wasn't all that long, and that was a goal of mine. I didn't really want to rent for all that long.
Yeah.
Kind of splits the room. People agree, disagree, whatever, doesn't matter. But for me personally, when something went wrong, if I had to wait for somebody else to fix it, even if it was a relatively quick turnaround, that used to frustrate me beyond end, because I am in construction. Like, I can do a lot of it myself. For me to have to sit there and wait, because I'm not about to fix it in a rental and pay my money and then maybe never see it again. So like, even though I could have fixed it, I didn't want to, because it didn't make any sense. For me now, if something goes, yes, it's inconvenient, and yes, it's at a cost, but I know it's getting fixed right, and it's getting done right away.
Yeah.
So like, that's the benefit from my perspective.
That's the nice part. It depends on the landlord that you get. I'm fortunate to have one that's like this, where if something goes and I fix it, materials comes off my next rent check.
Well, that's ideal.
So like,
and not everybody's like that.
It's rare.
Yeah.
I mean, if you catch like a corporation, they're not going to do that. I mean, I'm one of 2 tenants for my landlord, so it's different.
You got yourself an old school landlord.
Yeah. Like we traded for property maintenance.
Yeah.
During the summer, he didn't have to pay somebody to come cut the lawn, which is I knew what that cost. I used to do it.
Yeah.
So like, look, I'll cut the lawn. Let's knock $100 off. He's like, I'm in, done deal. I've had to do basic plumbing, and I was like, hey, P-trap's cleaned out, everything's moving along, no problem. All right, knock whatever your time was, just take it off the rent.
Yeah, that's very kind, and you really don't see that anymore these days. But
if I was a landlord, that's exactly how I would be.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think you would get tenants that would stay longer. Is the thing, because if you're treating your tenants right, then they're bound to stay longer. I think that's the ultimate thing.
And your house is in better shape, like.
Well, yeah, for a multitude of reasons.
If something doesn't absolutely have to be done, people don't want to be inconvenienced. So, like, I keep referencing the trap under the sink because hair gets stuck in there, whatever. If I didn't know a little bit about like introductory plumbing, I wouldn't have taken a day off from work to stay home, wait for my landlord to come in and fix it. I would have just left it alone. Yeah, and his plumbing would have been screwed.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the things. Like, little things wind up becoming big headaches.
Yeah, just by not doing it.
Yeah, there is definitely a big give and take to being a rental property owner and dealing with that. A lot of people, like a real estate investment, people like die for that. It's amazing. Yeah, but it comes with a lot of risk. It comes with a lot of need for capital right away. So there's a lot of gives and takes there for sure.
You can minimize the risk. I mean, if you're handy yourself, or if you know people that are, you can minimize the risk and turn it into a business.
Sure.
But yeah, if you're the kind of person where if anything goes, you have to call somebody, it's probably not for you.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be a fortune to get people out there on service calls.
I agree. I 100% agree. Well, I will say, in the name of managing businesses, I think we're probably almost about time here. But what I would like to say is to all of our viewers today, if you guys want to check us out on Instagram and YouTube and Twitter, that's always a big help for us. I know most of you guys are probably watching on either Twitter or YouTube. We do tag that on our Instagram all the time. But yeah, feel free to check us out. Most of our handles are Whiskey D Gingers, so you can check us out there. I know that our Twitter is Whiskey Gingers 1.
Yeah, that's before.
So that's a little weird. But yeah, definitely check us out on all of our platforms. Give us a follow or subscribe. It helps us out a ton. And feel free to give some comments on what you guys think we should be trying next. But keep an eye out, because a lot of these whiskeys are going to be coming your way.
Yeah.
All these gifted ones, and we're really excited for some of those special ones, especially with a guest host as well. So.
Yeah. So keep watching out for more Proof and Wood whiskeys. We got some more to get to. And then like Chris said, like, subscribe, all those socials and such. I think what could be kind of fun is, we'll take a look at how our Twitter goes and how YouTube goes. But once we get to, let's say, 25 subscribers, we'll pick somebody and we'll send you a nice bottle of whiskey.
Yeah, that'd be helpful on YouTube, you're thinking?
Yeah.
Because that's our least subscribed base right now.
So if you're in the first 25 YouTube subscribers, you're automatically entered to win a pretty unique bottle of whiskey that Chris and I have been holding on to for. It's going to be for a special occasion, but Growing the Pod's a special occasion. So.
Absolutely. Well, you heard it here first. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We hope you guys have a good night.
Till next time, I'm Brandon. He's Chris. We're the Whiskey Gingers. See you later.